Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining today. This is the Community Nature Connection Fire Preparedness question and answer training with Ranger Tim. Thanks so much for being here. We're really excited to have you all. We're going to give folks just 1 minute to join us this afternoon before we get started. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here this afternoon. Before we get started with the fire preparedness chat today, we're going to hand it over to our interpreter, Simone.
This is a bilingual message and will be repeated in English. Hola, mi nombre es Simone Rivadeneira. Este es un mensaje bilingüe que será repetido en inglés. Soy miembro de la Red de Justicia Lingüística de Comunidades Justas. Voy a interpretar el taller de hoy día entre inglés y español. Un ambiente bilingüe virtual exitoso depende de todos y todas, no solamente de la intérprete. Pueden ayudar teniendo en cuenta algunos puntos. Hablen claramente para asegurar que les podemos escuchar. Hablen a un ritmo moderado. Tengan cuidado de no hablar demasiado rápido, especialmente si están leyendo. Solamente debe hablar una persona a la vez para que no tengamos que decidir a quién interpretar. Hablen en el idioma en el que se sientan más cómodos y cómodas. Pedimos que las personas bilingües no cambien de un idioma a otro debido a las limitaciones de la tecnología con la que estamos trabajando. En un momento, la anfitriona activará la función de interpretación y en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla podrá seleccionar el idioma en el que desea escuchar el evento en inglés o español. Esto le permitirá escuchar cuando los oradores hablen en ambos idiomas, pero en el idioma de su preferencia. Si estás en un teléfono o en una tableta, necesitas encontrar el menú de 3 puntos y seleccionar interpretación de idiomas. Si está teniendo algún problema con su conexión, mande un mensaje por el chat a la anfitriona para resolver el problema. Gracias. Hi, my name is Simone Rivadeneira, and I am representing the Just Communities Language Justice Network. I'll be providing interpretation between English and Spanish for today's workshop. A successful virtual bilingual environment depends on all of us, not just the interpreter. You can help by keeping a few things in mind. Speak clearly to ensure we can hear you. Speak at a moderate pace. Please be careful not to speak too fast, especially if you are reading. Only one person should speak at a time. Speak in whichever language you feel most comfortable. We ask that bilingual folks do not switch language from one to another due to the limitations of the technology we are working with. In a moment, the host will turn on the interpretation feature, and at the bottom right corner of your screen, you'll be able to select the language you want to hear the workshop in, English or Spanish. This will allow you to hear when speakers of both languages talk, but in your language of preference. If you are on a phone or tablet, you need to find the 3-dot menu and select language interpretation. If you are having any trouble with the interpretation feature, send a message to the host through the chat so the issue can be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. And thanks everybody for joining today. We're going to get started. This is a fire preparedness with Ranger Tim. So before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that my name is Celeste Gasparic. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Training Institute Manager with Community Nature Connection. I'm joining you today from home in Northeast LA, the ancestral village Otsunga of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. So I'd love to invite everybody who's joining us today to introduce yourself in the chat. If you would share with us your name, preferred pronouns, where you're joining from, and if you're representing an organization, you can shout that out. And we encourage you to share the ancestral land that you're joining from as well. If you're not sure, I will drop a link in the chat for you to look it up. As well as the interpretation in Spanish, closed captioning is also available for this training. and you can see the captions by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your screen and selecting Show Subtitles. So Community Nature Connection is a nonprofit community-based organization. We serve the Los Angeles area. Our mission is to increase access to the outdoors for communities impacted by racial, socioeconomic, and disability injustices. And we do this by eliminating existing barriers to the outdoors through advocacy, community-centered programming, and workforce development. Today's training is being hosted by the Training Institute. The Training Institute is one of our programs that provides training and workforce development opportunities that aim to increase knowledge and skills in the naturalist, interpretive, and outdoor recreation fields. I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land on which CNC operates as the ancestral lands and home of the Tongva, Gabrielino, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples, original stewards and custodians of this territory. We recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Community Nature Connection strives to create partnerships and collaborate with local tribes to expand equitable outdoor programming to all. We will be taking everybody's questions today, and we would like to invite you all to enter your questions as they arise into the Q&A box, and you can find the Q&A box using the little button for Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be going through those questions on an ongoing basis throughout the presentation. So without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce Ranger Tim. Tim Para is a Los Angeles-based park ranger and has been a ranger with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority since 2007. He leads the MRCA Swiftwater Rescue teams and kayak programs as an instructor along the Los Angeles River. He's an EMT and a wildland firefighter, and he also leads the Ranger Interpretation Program. Ranger Tim, thank you so much for being here today. We can't wait to hear from you. We'd like to start off with a question. What inspired you to become a park ranger and a firefighter? Will you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure. Once again, thank you for having me here today. What inspired me to become a park ranger was when I was back in grammar school. I had a really cool sixth grade teacher. Her name was Miss Wickman, and she really inspired me in all aspects of nature and how to preserve and take care of our precious resources. She was really cool. We used to go on, like, I think we went on 5 field trips that 1 year, and she had me lead the hikes. And I just fell in love with being in the outdoors, educating in the outdoors. And she told me about park rangers and our national parks and how we need to protect our precious resources and our lands and our wildlife. And ever since that, the spark ignited, and I always want to be a ranger. And here I am today. And as a firefighter, I always loved Emergency 51 as a kid, and I always admired the firefighters, how they're heroes and how they saved people on power lines or down in a gully or something. As a kid, I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be the person to save people. And ever since that, I'm very lucky and to become a wildland firefighter and be a ranger today, because I always had that desire and goal.
That's great. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job? I know it contains like so many different elements, from the water rescue stuff and the firefighting, and then even the training and education part. So what's the most rewarding?
That's a good question, because there's a lot of facets and areas where I love my job. I love what I do. It's a career. It's a vocation, actually. I would say the most rewarding would be saving the wildlife and also helping people and educating people about our precious lands and how to preserve them and be a conservationist and how we could have all this beautiful part of nature for other generations to come. And when I see the glow on people's face when I tell them about our waterways and our mountains and our wildlife and how we need to preserve our precious area and our parks, to me that's most rewarding, making that connection with the public and saving wildlife and the resources protection.
Great. And how do you use interpretation in your job? When does that come up, like on a day-to-day basis or through special programs?
It's a good question. I actually lead the Ranger Division in our inter programs. I'm actually the one that actually teaches all the school programs when there's one available. I've taught several wildlife interface, urban interface programs for schools, grammar school and high schools. And I take them out in the field and the trails and we educate them about the flora, the fauna, the wildlife, not to litter and how we could preserve this and climate change and all positive stuff. So they come out of that day like totally enthusiastic and inspired because nature is so inspirational in every aspect. And I love teaching. I love inter. That's actually my forte.
Very nice. I think that might be how we got you here today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a shameless plug, but Community Nature Connection is, we do a lot around interpretation. We do a lot of public programs and trainings, and we actually are hosting a certified interpretive guide course.
Nice.
That's going to be starting in October, and there's still a couple of spots left. So if anybody is interested in that course and learning to hone your interpretive skills so that you can inspire future stewards as Ranger Tim does, then definitely check it out on the CNC website under the Training Institute where you registered for this training today. So we're gonna get into what we came here for. And I wanna ask you a little bit just about the landscape and what we're seeing with wildfires today. Can you tell us a little bit about wildfire trends? What have you witnessed in your work and what can we expect to see for the remainder of this fire season and then for fire seasons to come?
Okay, yeah, the trend now that we're seeing in the wildland areas is that the fire season's all year round. And our fuels are dry, they're brittle because of the drought. And we're seeing that we're in high fire danger throughout the year. And our winters have been dry as well. So we really have to be on our toes and be ready for a big breakout, maybe, because of fuels, the topography that we have. We live in a mountainous area. We have a lot of flash fuels, which are high grasses, because once we get a little bit of downpour, these grasses grow really quick and high, and that's a high danger because that is a very hot burning fire when flash fuels are combusted. Also, too, it's we don't have enough water, rains. Our weather's changing. Our weather patterns are changing. So what I'm telling a lot of the public is to be aware, know your surroundings, see what's going on, and to conserve on water, and also to be proactive. And we'll talk later on that on brushing and defensible spaces, but that's it. The trend is that we're having fire seasons all year round now. So it's just a reality, and we could all adapt to that and to be aware.
Great. And so, that's kind of part of why we wanted to have this chat today, a little bit about preparedness and awareness and how to adapt. And so The first thing that we're gonna talk a little bit about is creating an emergency plan and creating an evacuation plan. So who should create an emergency plan or an evacuation plan? Who should have these?
I think everybody should have an evacuation plan, especially if you live in a wildland area. That's very important to have. I think, and that goes down to your child, your dependents, everybody, grandma, everybody should have an evacuation plan. You should also have a survival kit, which is a backpack that everybody in the family household should have. And they should have, I mean, I could go on the list of evacuation plans. Very important to have is you want to always leave contact information on where you're going if you need to evacuate due to a wildland fire. Also, you need to dress for the occasion, have gloves, long sleeve, cotton, always cotton, tire, goggles, gloves, shut off all your devices, your combustible devices like the gas and propane tank, always turn that off, close windows and doors, leave lights on so that the fire department can know or see where your home is so that they could fight the fire and save your home, because the smoke is so dense and sometimes they can't even see your home. So leave your lights on, close your windows, your doors, leave your garden hose connected. Sometimes the fire department could get into some crawl spaces or something where they can still use your water that you have, your municipal water or your tank water to use to fight the fire. That's very important. Shut off your HVAC. And also what you want to do too is during that evacuation plan, write down verbatim the steps you're going to take if there is evacuation or mandatory evacuation. So your family knows where you're going to go, whether it be a Red Cross center or friends or family, and you guys all have your survival kit for at least three days. That's what we usually use, 3 to 4 days. Water, I could go on that with that as well, but your common dry goods and hygiene and clothing. So the main thing is to have a plan. Have a plan, what if, and that the family, where your family, leave phone numbers, and also too, I like to have my evacuation, like all my materials close to the door, like a closet close to the door, so that everybody knows that they can meet there or gather all the information or all their items to evacuate the area as well. Also your pets. Let's talk about pets. Pets are important. Make sure you have a preparation for your pets too, and that you have a kennel or container to transport them as well. We see a lot of people, sometimes they don't prepare for that. Your furry friend, you got to make sure that he's okay too, or she's okay, and prepare for food, water for your pets as well. And that's very important. Always have an evacuation plan and a go-to.
Great. And so it does sound like, part of this plan is just a checklist almost of what to do in an emergency situation. Don't forget to turn your lights on, turn off the HVAC system, and like all of these things that in the moment you might not remember about. So having that written down sounds like it'll be really important and helpful.
Yes, very important.
And what are a few simple steps that I could take this weekend to get started on this plan and be prepared in case of an emergency?
Okay, good question. What I would do is, like I was said earlier, have a survival pack, like a backpack with all your belongings you're going to need, phone numbers. Also too, your personal documents, very important, very important. Your personal documents that you just could not lose in a fire. So keep those with you in your survival pack or a copy of. So what I would do first thing, start making your survival pack for 3 to 4 days to live on, and have that accessible where you could go to it and everybody in the household knows where that is to retrieve it, and then a common place that everybody will go to make sure their loved ones are safe.
Great. That's a great recommendation, getting started on building out that survival pack and then maybe having a little family meeting to let everybody know where it's going to be stashed, and where the meeting spot is. And then getting that kind of list of emergency contacts together and putting it in there. Great. That seems like a great place to start and something that could be accomplished this weekend. So another question, and I think you covered this a little bit. If a fire is nearby, you're aware of a fire being nearby, but there is some time, what are the first steps that someone should take to prepare their home?
Oh, like home hardening? Definitely. You want to be proactive, because if you are in a wildland interface area, you want to make sure, like, I'll just go down the list. Your outside lawn furniture, like cushions, put those inside the house. Your eaves, your soffits, have those already closed up and covered, or in your vents, make sure those are covered. You also want to make sure all your combustible items are center of the house, just in case, because heat, radiant heat, and everything, it just gets so hot, the smoke you can't see, it changes the whole dynamic, the whole environment. Fire has its own weather system and it changes in a minute or seconds. So you want to prepare for that, have your evacuation plan, make sure all your items are in center of the home that can maybe start a fire. Safeguard your home, close your eaves, cover your vents, make sure, if you want a roof too that's metal or concrete or tile. We see a lot of times wood composition roofs. Embers are your key, that element that start fires. They get into the eaves or the soffits, they get underneath and you can't see them, then all of a sudden they'll get in the attic and then the roof starts on fire, and then everything else combust and starts your whole home is in flames. So the main thing is to protect your roof. Make sure you have a fire retardant roof or some kind of different material than wood. Also too, vegetation. You want vegetation away from your home. Crawling vines and those are real nice to have, but if you're in a fire prone area, you want to get those away from the home, and you want to either put stone or brick. Also wood piles, you want to take your firewood, you want to put that at least 30 feet to 100 feet. Let's say 30 feet. We're going to talk about zones too. There's zones 1, 2, and 3 on defensible space, that if anything underneath your deck, you want to clear that as well, like debris or dry brush or leaves. You want to constantly clear that. Also ornamental high oil plants that have a lot of oils, you don't want those close to your house, because those will be the first one to ignite, and then hope maybe not, but your house can also ignite as well because of the fuels around your home. Also too, there's defensible spacing, which we have 3 zones. The first zone is 30 feet, no dead leaves, no plants that can combust real easily. Also trees. Let's talk about trees. If you're in a wildland area, there's a lot of trees that like the conifer pines and stuff, they have a lot of oil, so they'll start a crown fire, meaning that the fire will start at the tip and then it could jump to your roof real quick. So what you want to do, you want to clean up your ladder fuels, which is you want to lemmy up and cut all the branches from the earth all the way up to the top as close as you can. And spacing. Trees need to be spaced at least 10 feet apart. If you have real close trees together, close to your home, I suggest that you kind of cut those away and get those away, because we see a lot of times when trees are really close to each other, and not necessarily they're close to the house, but all of a sudden you've got this torch right by your house because the trees are so close and they're all ignited. That could also start your home on fire. So tree separation, keeping dry brush and plants away from your home. Also, to keep native plants. A lot of our native California plants are fire tolerant and water tolerant as well. But also, succulents are good if you like succulent plants. There's also ice bush that's really good, that are fire tolerant. And so that's just a suggestion. So we're talking about dispensable spaces. Keep all fuels away from your home that can ignite your home.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, for those who are interested also in a little deeper dive into some of the landscaping. Sorry, it's the work from home life. Anybody who is interested in a little bit of a deeper dive into the landscaping for fire resilience, I definitely recommend signing up for our training that's in 2 weeks. And that is with somebody, Erin from Theodore Payne Foundation, and she'll talk about landscaping for wildfire resilience using native plants. So more to learn there. But I'm curious, going back to the topic of home hardening, Ranger Tim, who would you say it is most important for? I mean, what if somebody is a renter? Are there inexpensive or day-to-day kind of maintenance steps that can be taken to protect their belongings?
Yes, if you're renting in a wildland fire prone area, you want to get renter insurance. And there's different types of rental insurance or renters insurance, and you want to protect your assets and your important stuff at home. So insurance is key to have wildfire renters insurance. There's different ones out there, there's different plans. So you really have to find out the best plan that fits your needs. That's what I would do. As a renter, I would definitely insure all my important items. Like me, I'm a musician, so I have like a lot of guitars and stuff. So that was the first thing that I could not bear losing in a fire, and also documents and so forth, or family heirlooms. So yeah, renter fire insurance is very important, and to get the best plan. Sometimes it's worth it to pay a little bit more to protect your assets and your material things at home.
Great. And for those who are ready to learn more about home hardening, what resources or where would you recommend they look for more information?
LA County has a really good website, LA County Fire, on home hardening, and also Cal Fire. Cal Fire has some really good YouTube information or channel on home hardening. Home hardening, basically what it is like I said before, you're protecting your eaves in your house and the soffits. Make sure there's no openings into the attic, and making sure your windows are metal or not, the old wood framing ones. Basically, you don't want fuel around your home, so you're trying to protect the perimeter. You don't want any like wood or anything underneath your deck. And if you have your deck or any kind of like redwood, you want to preserve it. So let's talk about upkeeping too. You want to upkeep it with preservatives and oils and keep your wood in good shape. Because even having, like a painting or coating helps with preventing from it igniting in a wildland fire. But the main thing is ambers. And what I stress with a lot of homeowners is your eaves and your soffits, have those closed, protected, and that would really save you in a wildland fire, because it's the embers that really ignite your home.
Definitely. So there is, like Ranger Tim said, there's lots of places to learn more. And in the follow-up email to this training, I will send some of those recommended resources along to everybody. And so I want to dig a little bit deeper into defensible spaces. And you talked about zones and the 30-foot zone. And can you just tell us a little bit more, like how do they define the different zones that make up the defensible spaces?
Sure. The 30 feet is usually like, for instance, your firewood, like a pile of firewood. A lot of people like to keep it close to the backyard door. The best thing is to get that. That's fuel. So you want to keep it away 30 feet. Also, some other aspects like your tools or your lawnmower, your tractor, keep that away from the house, because there's gas and that could also ignite as well. So that's a 30 feet distance. Like a shed, if you have a metal shed, keep your tools and your gardening materials in the shed. Now, when we go to 200, like 100 feet, we're talking about the brushing. Okay, brushing is very important. Nowadays, you have to brush more often because of the dry fuels, flash fuels that are coming back quicker after a quick rain that we have. So brushing is very, very important. So at least 100 feet to 200 feet. LA County Fire requires 200 feet. I used to live in a wildland area in the forest, U.S. forest, with the MRCA, and I always brushed for 400 feet. It didn't hurt, and even the fire department, LA County, was like, that's actually a good cushion. So I always recommend at least 200, if not 400 feet around the house of brushing. And what that means is weed whacking all the plants down to at least 3 inches. That's the go-to. Nothing more than 3 inches to brush around your home. So having that safety parameter is key in that cushion. And then when we talk about 200 feet, we're talking about tree separating, keeping trees at a 10 feet distance away from each other, not having clusters of different trees or having them close together, because then that causes a crown fire. Crown fire is when a fire starts at the tip of the tree, and then it's a torch, and that torch just goes along. Now you have a ring of fire around your home. So tree separating at 200 feet.
And so how can folks learn more about best practices as well as the requirements in their local areas for brush clearance?
What I would do is go to your local fire station, whether it be LA City or LA County Fire or CAL Fire or US Forest Service, and the captain, they will, or the chief will tell you exactly what they require by law, and then you'll be on board, because it differs in different areas. So definitely check with your local fire station.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm curious because Community Nature Connection, we work with a lot of youth and a lot of people who are just entering kind of the outdoor field. We have programs where youth and people learn to become interpreters and really get a sense of what it is and what it takes to have a career in the outdoor field. And so I'm curious if you have any opportunities or recommendations for folks who are interested in getting into this field, whether it be firefighting or becoming a park ranger. You have such a wealth of experience working outdoors. So, what was really valuable to you, and what could you recommend for others?
Great. I think that's wonderful. I would tell people to definitely get involved with their agency or you volunteer with either state parks, federal, state, or local agencies. Get involved, volunteer, find out. The reason why I say that it's a close knit career. It's kind of hard to get into because there's not so many areas that you could get or opportunities at the time. So what I'd say is volunteer your time if you can, and also education is very important. Take any of the earth sciences or biology or ecology in your college. Having a degree is really important. It helps out a lot. Also, to volunteering or joining a fire academy, it's very important because you get your name out and people know you, and then they find out your character, and they're like, wow, he or she's great. Let's get her on board. So it's important to get your name out there and to volunteer your services and to get as much education as you can on your belt, because that's going to help you. That's going to get you into the outdoor classes and working out outside, which is awesome. This is what we love to do.
That's great. And are there usually opportunities at the fire station? Like if someone was to just wander down to the fire station to check it out?
Good question. I know with the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority, we have an awesome fire department program that you could just walk down and sign up and get involved, as right after high school, 18 years old. We give free training. You get in the fire academy. We offer that services. Also, CAL FIRE has a pretty good program as well. LA County, LA City, there's a certain protocol you have to go by. I'm not sure if they have like an Explorer program. I believe they do, but yeah, like best thing to do is go down to the fire station or look online for volunteer programs and get involved and get into that fire academy. The more knowledge you have, that's power, and that'll get you in the door.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing those opportunities for folks to get involved and to kind of seek entree into the field. I would love at this time to take any questions. Well, actually, as folks kind of gather their questions, I just want to invite you, our participants, to type your questions into the Q&A box. And also, I had one question come in via email about a radio alert system, and Ranger Tim and I were talking about it a little before we logged on today, and we were wondering if that person would come on and tell us a little bit more about what they're looking for, or what kind of information they're seeking in terms of setting up a radio alert system. So if you're here today and that was your question, you can raise your hand or you can type your question into the Q&A box so that we can go ahead and get your question. And I see we have a hand raised, so we'll get to that. But I just, as people go ahead and type your questions, I just want to ask Ranger Tim if you had anything else to add, if you had any last messages that you wanted to make sure folks heard today.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I would definitely say be prepared. Have good radio communications. Always have a radio with you so you know what the weather pattern, what it's doing. If there's a fire in the area, always be prepared. Have a plan. Be prepared. Have a plan. Be proactive. That's important, and watch out for your loved ones. Make sure everybody else is on the same page and that you guys are safe, and you go out there and be diligent, be observant and diligent all the time now, because we're getting more and more fires almost weekly in different areas. So being aware is key to safety.
Great. And I mean, I know I use Twitter to try to stay aware of like fires in the area. Do you have any other recommendations of kind of how folks can be tuned into what's going on information wise?
Yeah, we use NOAA a lot, which is National Weather Institute, or they're great because they always tell us if there's potential fire weather, or if there's fire in the area, or what's going on. So we watch the weather diligently. We do, because that tells us whether could be potential fire behavior in the area. So I recommend NOAA. That's NOAA.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
we got the question I was talking about the radio system came in. So thank you, Natalie. The question is, I am wondering what the process is of linking with a radio alert system. So how could, me, a regular person, link up with a radio alert system, like, for example, what you guys use for MRCA, or like another county fire alert system? Is there a way for the public to be linked up with that?
That's a good question. I know
Or maybe you have to hack into
we have a LA, yeah, we as rangers, because we're peace officers and public safety, we have LA County and LA City fire radios. But that's a frequency I don't know if it's to the public, but I would definitely check with the fire department and see if you are in a wildland risk area, high risk area, to see if they can put you on some kind of radio communication, and that you can know if there's a fire in the area. Yeah, definitely. I think that's important. That would be a great alert system to have. I don't know if it's accessible to everybody. That's all. I would definitely check with the fire department to see if they have a system like that. I'm sure they do.
Great. Natalie, you can send us a chat, or and let us know if that answers your question, if that's what you were looking for. And then let's see. Oh, we just had a comment come through that the NOAA NOAA weather specific site is weather.gov. Thank you for that, Michael.
Thank you.
And then also that the CERT programs have radio training. So if you want to learn more about using a radio system, definitely check those out. And that the CERT programs, do you know much about those, Ranger Tim? I know they're offered through the fire department.
Can you repeat the question?
The CERT programs are like emergency response training programs that are offered through the fire department.
Yeah, that's actually excellent. If you could get involved with the CERT program, I recommend that for everybody that can do it or have the time. We need more CERT trained people out there, and it's free. And I have some friends that are actually certified, and it's an awesome program. It really gets you involved. It educates you. It gets you ready, prepared for any disaster, not just fire, but other flooding and earthquakes. Definitely, there's CERT programs out there. I don't know the actual website, but you could just Google it, and you can find out the next CERT program. I think the fire department, LA City has one, or LA County. Definitely, that's a wonderful program to get involved in.
Yes, and yes, Natalie, that is, so I'm pretty sure that's the right website that you found. And they're offered through the fire department. And I will, in the follow-up email, I'll do that Googling for you, and I'll shoot you all a link to the LA County CERT programs as they arise. I know I had a colleague who took one and she loved it, and she just felt like so much better prepared. She's not even living like she's living in like East LA, but still like gained so much, not necessarily needing to live on the edge of the wildlands, but even in like the urban setting, you can really gain a lot from that sort of training and preparation. So thank you for recommending that, Michael. And we have one other question that came through about restoration projects. I know MRCA has a restoration division. Do you all ever do any like volunteer projects or know anything about other restoration work in the region?
Yes, we do. You can look at our website, mrca.ca.gov. And we do have a park planning division that does do restoration for our parks. And I think they do a volunteer program as well. So you can get involved in our parks and help with restoration. That'd be wonderful. Definitely check out our website and they'll prompt you to what to do next.
Great. So I will pop the MRCA website into the follow-up email as well. So thank you for that recommendation, Ranger Tim. Are there any other questions from folks? Definitely feel free to pop those in the Q&A or in the chat. And thanks everybody for your tips. This is definitely the tip of the iceberg in terms of awareness and preparedness. And there's, a lot more to learn and lots of information to seek. So I'll make sure to send out some of the recommendations and resources that came up during today's training. I also want to let folks know who are interested in more about plants and landscaping that we're excited to have Erin from Theodore Payne Foundation joining us on September 30th. And that'll be another training specifically on landscaping for wildfire resilience. So we'll learn more about those defensible space and zones, and then which kind of natives are actually fire resilient, and how you can really beautifully landscape using those plants that will help defend against wildfires. So definitely check that one out. And then as part of this program, we'll be working on a resource guide. So we're doing a few more trainings on the wildfire preparedness and resilience, and then we'll be publishing a resource guide. And so that's going to have a ton more resources on all things related to wildfire resilience in terms of trainings and what folks can do to learn more, and then also resources to learn more. So I don't think we have any other questions at this time. So if those questions do arise, definitely feel free to reach out. I can be contacted at training@communitynatureconnection.org, and that's how you'll get a follow-up email for this training. So you can always respond if you think of another question, and I can pass those along to Ranger Tim if I don't know the answer. And so Ranger Tim, I want to thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience with us. And I want to thank folks for joining and for sending us their questions. And I hope y'all are inspired to do a little work this weekend on your own evacuation plan and check out a little more about how you can be prepared for wildfire as the season and the year rolls along. So awesome. Thank you so much, Ranger Tim. And
you're welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for being here. Everybody have a fantastic afternoon, and thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.